Everyone says they want their footage to look cinematic, but most people chase the wrong thing. They buy new gear, they install new LUTs, and they still wonder why their footage doesn't look like a movie. Today, we're breaking down exactly what makes an image look cinematic, piece by piece. And you might be surprised by how little the camera actually matters. So for this video, I'm making a cinematic meter from 0 to 100 so we can see all the phases that make an image cinematic. What's going on, world? I'm Eric D. Seals, and a cinematic image isn't on accident. It's layers of choices: lighting, lenses, performance, framing, and color. Each one adds something different to the final image, and yes, when it comes to camera, you're probably going to be surprised. Every cinematic image starts with light. It's the one thing that can turn a simple frame into something that feels alive. You can change your lens, your camera, even your subject, but if your lighting feels flat, the image is going to die. Nothing controls how cinematic an image looks more than lighting. It's something that I wish I knew earlier, and I always thought it was the camera. And the reason that we think it's the camera is because that's an easy purchase. If I buy this thing, then I'm gonna be good. But lighting takes time, effort, and it takes time to train your eye on how to know what's good and what's not. I also didn't understand the concept between soft light and hard light. They both have their purpose. For instance, when I'm doing an interview, I want soft light on their face. But when I'm doing a product or I'm showing an image of food, hard light actually looks really good on it. So it depends on the situation and it depends on the mood. Lighting is really the end all be all when it comes to shaping how your image looks. It tells us how we should feel from the emotional side. It tells us how the character might be feeling. It really is the cornerstone of making an image look good. It's also not how hard the light is, but it also has to do with where the light is motivated from. So when we walk into a room, we naturally know that the window is going to have a lighting source from the sun. When we're in a bedroom, we know that it's going to come from different lamps or someone's screen on their laptop. Motivating the light is going to make it feel more real. And that's how when we choose to place our lights, our goal is always to make a room feel like it's not lit. And that goes into the realism of documentary filmmaking. We want to feel like we're observing the audience without all the equipment and all the lighting that might take us out of it. As soon as you see a window, but the key light is coming from the other side, you're quickly gonna know that that scene was lit by a person instead of just through natural light. The other thing is color temperature. The color temperature shifts the emotion in a scene faster than any dialogue ever could. When we have daylight versus moonlight, when we have dusk versus tungsten light, it's all gonna give us a different mood and emotion when we're looking at our scene. When your lighting has motivation and mood, it does more than reveal your subject. It reveals your story. So before we talk about settings or gear, the lens defines how the audience feels. When you're choosing a lens, you're doing more than just saying, I want a lens that has a wide angle or a lens that can go telephoto. You're also giving the character to your film. The lens has way more influence on your image than the camera does. That's why there's so many different lenses. You hear people say, oh, this lens has character. You can put filters on top of it. Some lenses are too sharp. Some lenses are too soft. You have lenses that are made in different parts of the world that have a certain feel. You have lenses that were made 100 years ago that people are retrofitting to fit on cameras today. The lens has so many ways to make your image look different, from making it look intimate, giving it emotion, giving it the look and nostalgic feel that some people want when they're filming a scene. I film on Sigma lenses all the time. And one of the reasons for that is it's a very baseline image. It's not super nostalgic. It doesn't have a lot of character. It's relatively sharp if you think about it. But the way that I use it, it gives me a neutral base point. So when I get into post-production, I can do all my painting there. And that works mostly for corporate projects or branded content where they want a little bit of feel, but sometimes they don't want it to feel too moody. If I have a project like a documentary and I've talked with the director, we might choose a lens or a filter set that we're gonna use throughout the whole entire film because it fits the aesthetic that they're going for. So how you choose a lens is going to be very instrumental on how you're gonna make your image look. Some other things to keep in mind when you're using a wide lens is gonna sometimes make people feel like they're alone, where something that's super zoomed in or a telephoto is gonna make people maybe maybe feel trapped, or you're showing something from the emotional side, like how you use not only the lens, but the focal distance is gonna make a big difference. I think the other thing that I didn't consider when I was choosing lenses or trying to make that cinematic image is that the reason that people like vintage lenses is because they're imperfect. They're not going to give you the same look and feel on the edge of the glass versus the center of the glass, or if you focus in a different way, or if you have a different f-stop or t-stop, they're going to have imperfections. And some people like that because that represents a human side of a lens that people are looking for. When we want to emote emotion, we need to have something that has a soul to it. And I think that's the best way to put it. Some of the vintage glass and some of the lens that people are looking for has a soul to it, where some are just very clinical. Cinematic storytelling isn't just about who's in the frame. It's about where they exist. The world around your subject sets the tone before a word is even spoken. So when it comes to documentary filmmaking in particular, because that's the field that I'm in, set dressing is not always something that we can implement into our scenes, but we know the difference of when we have an interview and it's in a location that just naturally looks beautiful when you walk in the room by itself, or we're in a scene that just has that perfect lighting. Like, the location of an interview or a verite scene is going to make and break how cinematic that image can look. If you're doing an interview in particular and you're just in a conference room, 4 white walls is never gonna look cinematic, it's never gonna look great. There's no depth to the room, there's no character to the room, there's no layers to the room. Whenever I can do an interview in that person's real home, that always makes a big difference. And just a natural scene is always gonna look better than something that's fabricated. Whenever I can get a room that has depth, that's always gonna be a big plus. Now, to make a cinematic image, it doesn't mean that you have to have a lot of depth, but it does help. There are some really good DPs and directors and filmmaking teams that can make a flat wall look amazing. I've seen some interviews where they've done that, and I'm just like, how did they make that image look so cinematic? But for most situations, having that depth in the room just gives layers. So essentially, in a perfect world, I have 3 different levels of depth every time I'm filming something. There's a foreground, middle ground, and background. And whether that's someone I'm filming from the verite aspect or just doing some B-roll, when I have those 3 layers, that's going to make a big difference. I will go out of my way to do an interview or film a scene in an environment, even if it's not a perfect scenario, because I know the difference of being in place or on location with a character and being able to tell their story. Location is everything. It should whisper story even when your character stays silent. Now, here's the one that surprises almost everyone: the camera. Everyone wants to believe this is where the magic happens, but the truth is, it's only about 5% of the equation. Here's my greatest example of why the camera only represents 5%. You know how many different studios or productions have come out and said they filmed a whole movie on an iPhone? You'll see that it's the base of the iPhone, but they put a lens on top of it, they got some type of stabilization with it. They have $1 million lighting, $1 million sets, $1 million locations and situations. And so those are all the things that go into making the image look good. The camera is just capturing that image. And now cell phones are very close. They're not, equal to, but they're very close to what we use for some of our high-end cameras. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a difference from the different cameras that you use, the different images that they can produce, and they do make a difference, but you can get a cinematic image with a basic camera if your lighting, your lenses, your environment, all those things are looking good at that point. When it comes to camera settings, don't get me wrong, these things do matter, but they don't add to the story. Your bit depth, your dynamic range, these are all tools to help you cultivate your story, but they're not the main story. Gear doesn't create emotion, people do. Framing is the language of emotion. It's how you tell your viewer where to look and what to feel without saying a word. Framing is one of the most important things to me when it comes to a cinematic image. That's the thing that I didn't realize when I was looking at other people's work, and I would always ask, why doesn't my stuff look like that? And it's the use of negative space, it's the use of depth of field, isolating people, using wide shots. All of these things go into making a cinematic image. When it comes to framing, I don't think you get better at it unless you just practice it. Look at your favorite docs, your favorite narrative films, and say, how can I recreate that on my next project? My cheat code is depth. It's utilizing foreground, middle, and background in almost every image that I do. The other thing is sometimes leaving your camera super still and letting someone walk by. It might be something that you see more in a narrative film. Leading lines and geometry is not just about how you frame your camera, it's where you place things in your camera. So there's so many reasons that I can't necessarily just dive into with this video, but there's many reasons of why framing really can cultivate a cinematic image. A beautiful composition is invisible. It doesn't draw attention to itself. It pulls you deeper into the story without you even knowing. The other thing that makes an image look cinematic is the talent of the DP. The way that they operate all these things when you combine them is going to make a big difference. And that's not something that I considered until I started to see the difference between my current work and previous work that I did years before. It's important for you to realize that some of it is going to come over time. You need to develop your own style, your taste, what you like, what you don't like, the rules that you implement when you're covering a scene. While it's not the majority of what makes an image cinematic, DPs who have their own style is going to make a big difference in when an image looks cinematic. The other thing to keep in mind is your talent. How they look, how they act, how they move in a space. Those things are going to attribute to your cinematic image. So someone who is wearing certain type of clothing, maybe they're super stale, maybe they're not moving, that's going to make your image not look as good versus someone who's super comfortable with the person in front of them with the camera, allows them to get in spaces that may make most people feel uncomfortable from the day-to-day interactions that we have as human beings. Those are things that go into what makes the image look cinematic as well. Great DPs can read people as well as light. The first thing I'm doing when I'm walking into a room is seeing what the lighting looks like, but I'm also scoping out the people that we're going to be filming. How are they feeling? Have they been in a documentary before? Have they been interviewed before? I want to understand how comfortable they are so that I can be a better filmmaker in the process when working with them. Collaboration with talent breathes life into the image. If they're comfortable with you, it's going to come out in the film. When your subject trusts you, they give you moments that no lighting setup could ever create. Camera movement is rhythm, not decoration. It should enhance emotion, not compete with it. I think one of the things that I see people do when they're especially covering a verite scene in a documentary, they're moving too much. Slow down, have patience, allow the story to happen in front of you. Sometimes the best capture of what's going on in a room is just to allow it to happen in front of you. Think of it as taking a picture with your video camera or your cinematic camera. Who says video camera anymore? And think of it as a moving picture. And these are subjects in your moving picture. And just stay still. Sometimes, if you ever like people watch, that's what you're doing sometimes with the camera, and that's okay. Know at times moving the camera isn't always needed. Sometimes when you have a slow push in, like you're on a dolly, or you're using a gimbal, or you're using a Steadicam, those different type of movements can make an image look cinematic. Sometimes you want to be handheld. There's something about the camera not fully being set that has people feel the emotion and the ride that they're going in. That's why when I'm in a car, I'm okay that it's not perfectly still because I'm bumping in, riding in the car with you. These are the things that make people feel like they're in the scene. And so when you're making something look cinematic, remember you're trying to immerse your character into the audience's mind. Color is a subconscious storyteller. It's the layer that hits emotion before your audience even realizes it. Wardrobe, that's color in motion. Now, you don't always have the ability to control what somebody wears, but just know that the color that they wear, the color in the room, the tone that they have is going to add to your cinematic image. So when you're doing interviews, you might want to have something that contrasts what the background is. If they have something dark, maybe the background is light. Maybe if the background is light, they have something that's dark. You should be playing with colors, tones, hues, because these are the things that make an interview look good. Contrasting tones separate subjects from their environment, and that's something that you always want. So that when we're looking at an image, the most important thing is the person that's essentially lit the most. We're saying that this is the most important thing and this is where you need to pay attention to. And scientifically, I think your eyes attract to the brightest thing on the screen. And that's it. It's 100% cinematic. You're good to go. Not because of a camera or a LUT or a piece of gear, but because of awareness and collaboration. Lighting gives shape. Talent gives emotion. Environment builds context. Lens, framing, and color bring it all together. So the next time you see a cinematic image, remember, it's not magic. It's intention. If you learned something here, do me a favor and drop your favorite cinematic trick in the comments below. The best answer might show up in my next video. Until next time, I'm Eric D. Seals. Keep your light motivated, your lens intentional, and your stories human.
Hi, I'm Eric Seals. I'm the tape man. Cameraman!